It was another late night at the office, the kind where only the hum of the air conditioning and the glow of computer screens filled the room. Most of the team had left hours ago, eager to start their weekends. But I was still at my desk, reviewing spreadsheets and preparing a presentation for Monday's meeting. Across the room, my coworker Alex sat at his own desk, frowning at his laptop screen. We had been working on the same project for weeks, tight deadlines. High stakes. Alex and I had always gotten along well enough. He was the kind of person who made everything seem easy with his confident attitude and natural charm. He was about my age, and with his athletic build and sharp jawline, it was no surprise he turned heads in the office. We had been professional, of course, keeping things strictly work-related, but there was always something unspoken in the way he would look at me, in the way our conversations sometimes lingered longer than necessary. As I took a sip of the cold coffee I'd forgotten about hours ago, Alex looked up from his screen and met my eyes. "Hey, you still working on that presentation?" he asked, his voice carrying across the empty room. "Yeah," I replied, rubbing my temples, trying to get this all wrapped up before I head out. He stretched his arms above his head, his shirt lifting slightly to reveal a sliver of skin. "You know we are the only ones left here. Why do you not take a break for a minute?" he suggested, a small smile playing on his lips. I hesitated, glancing at the clock. It was already past 10. "I probably should," I admitted. "But if I do not finish this now, it is just going to be hanging over me all weekend." He shrugged and leaned back in his chair. "Fair enough. But I could use a break, and you look like you could too. How about we head to the break room for a coffee? Maybe clear our heads a bit." There was something about the way he said it that made it hard to refuse. I nodded, pushing back my chair. "All right, coffee sounds good." We walked down the quiet hallway, our footsteps echoing in the empty space. When we reached the break room, Alex switched on the lights, revealing the same old coffee maker we had all come to rely on during late nights. He started brewing a fresh pot while I leaned against the counter, watching him. The air felt different. Maybe it was just the emptiness of the office, or the fact that we were alone. But it felt like the space between us was charged with something unspoken. "You have been putting in a lot of hours lately," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "I am impressed." "Well, it is not just me," I replied, smiling. "You have been here just as late." He chuckled. "Yeah, but you have been doing all the heavy lifting. I'm just trying to keep up." The coffee machine beeped and Alex poured 2 cups, handing one to me. Our fingers brushed as I took the cup, and I felt a spark, like a static shock. I looked up, meeting his eyes, and for a moment, the world outside the break room faded. It was just the two of us, standing too close in the dim light. "So, what do you think?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "Do you think we will pull this off on Monday?" I shrugged, trying to keep my tone casual. "We always do." He nodded, but he did not look away. "Yeah, we do. You know, I'm glad I get to work with you on this. It makes things easier." My heart raced a little. It was just a compliment, but something about the way he said it, the way his gaze held mine, felt different. "Thanks," I said, my voice almost a whisper. "I feel the same way." The silence between us stretched, filled with the hum of the coffee machine and the distant sounds of the city outside. I felt like there was something more hanging in the air, waiting to be acknowledged. As I opened my mouth to say something, Alex moved closer, leaning against the counter beside me. "You know," he said, his voice low, "we spend so much time here, working late. It is easy to forget that there's more to life than spreadsheets and deadlines." I laughed softly, but there was a nervous edge to it. "Yeah, it is easy to get lost in all this." He reached out, his hand resting lightly on my arm. "I do not mind, though, not when it is with you." I froze, the touch sending a rush of heat through me. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked up at him. And suddenly, the space between us felt smaller, the air heavier. Alex. Before I could say anything else, he leaned in, his breath warm against my skin. I know we are coworkers, he whispered, but sometimes I think about you. I cannot help it. I felt my pulse quicken. I knew I should say something. Set a boundary, but the way he looked at me made it impossible to speak. His hand moved from my arm to my back, pulling me closer. Is it wrong? He asked, his lips inches from mine. I shook my head, my voice barely audible. No, it is not. And then he kissed me. It was slow at first, tentative, like he was waiting for me to pull away. But I did not. I kissed him back, my hands finding their way to his shoulders, feeling the warmth of his body through his shirt. The kiss deepened, and everything else faded, the late hours, the stress of the project, the office itself. It was just us in that moment, and nothing else mattered. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless. I have wanted to do that for a long time, he admitted, his forehead resting against mine. Me too, I whispered, my heart still racing. We stood there for a moment, the silence heavy and charged. Part of me knew this was crossing a line, but another part of me did not care. What now? I asked, my voice breaking the quiet. He smiled, a hint of mischief in his eyes. Well, we have the whole office to ourselves. What do you want to do? I laughed, the tension easing a little. As tempting as that sounds, maybe we should get back to work. We still have a presentation to finish, remember? He sighed dramatically, but there was a smile on his lips. Fine, but only if you promise to grab a drink with me after. I raised an eyebrow. You mean like a date? Call it whatever you want, he said, grinning. But I am not letting you get away that easily. We made our way back to our desks, but the air between us felt different now, lighter, but still charged with the electricity of what had just happened. We worked side by side, but every so often I would catch his eye, and he would smile, and I would feel that spark again. When we finally finished the presentation, it was nearly midnight. I stood up, stretching my arms. We did it, I said, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. Yeah, we did, he replied, pushing his chair back and standing beside me. And I think we make a pretty good team. I felt a smile tug at my lips. Maybe we do. As we walked out of the office together, the city lights blinking in the distance, I felt a sense of excitement. This was not just another late night at work. It felt like the beginning of something more. As we stepped into the elevator, Alex reached for my hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. Just so you know, he said, I am really glad you stayed late tonight. I looked up at him, feeling a warmth spread through me. Me too. The elevator doors closed, and I knew that whatever happened next, it was going to be worth it.